So this video is if your kids are really struggling with divorce and what it is that you can do about it. So first things first is the way that you tell them about your divorce makes a big difference. It kind of follows how you and your soon-to-be ex handle that situation, who you're being about it, not so much what you're saying, but who you being as you're saying it, can really influence the trajectory of how they handle the process moving forward. Also, a little bit about what your marriage was like. Some kids that I work with, if the relationship between their parents was very acrimonious, they're actually a bit relieved when the divorce comes. So it really depends on what the environment was like beforehand. Or were you all very, very tight together and this is a breaking up of their unit? Now, for all children that go through a change like that, there's going to be emotional dysregulation. There's going to be some kind of trauma that is introduced within their lives. But children at different ages respond to that kind of change differently. When they're very, very young, like below the age of like 5, they can sometimes handle that trauma a lot better because it's before a lot of their crucial memories in their life have been made, and it can kind of not disturb them as much as, say, if it had happened when they were 8 or 9 to 12. So between 8 and 12 is when we really are forging, from a developmental psychology perspective, our sense of belonging to our tribe and, you know, who we are, and you know, stage before 12 or before 8 is safety. So as long as the parents handle this transition really well and safety is not in question, from a developmental perspective, they do settle if the parents do a good job at that piece. But the sense of belonging and the tribal part and a child's idea about love and longevity of relationships really gets formulated in that next stage. So we just need to, as parents, be cognizant of what developmental stage our children are in when we're going through these changes and how best to help them cope. So if you're in a position where your kid is, or your kids are not handling the change really, really well, and you're also not handling it very well, they'll kind of take your lead, okay? So the deal that we have with parents is to make sure that they get themselves sorted out and processing what has happened, so that they're then able to help their children process what has happened even better. If you're focused on your children and how they're doing while you're falling apart, it's a little bit like the concept of being on an airplane when the cabin pressure decompresses and the oxygen mask comes down, and you're putting oxygen masks on everyone around you, but you're not thinking of yourself. You're going to run out of steam at some point. And they're going to take your lead. If your lead is everything's okay and, you know, we're going to work through this together and you are loved, and although our romantic relationship has come to an end over here between you and your mom, myself and your mom, or myself and your dad, familial love is forever. And as a parent, I will love you forever. And that's constant, although sometimes romantic relationships do come to an end. Explaining these concepts to kids is important because it does make them question whether all love can end. And it makes them insecure and having some separation anxiety when they think that your love for them can end as quickly as the relationship ended with their parent. So how you tell them makes a big difference. Who you're being with each other and with yourself. Like if you're massively emotionally dysregulated, they're going to take your lead. They're going to follow who you're being in the matter. If you're dysregulated, they're going to be dysregulated. And particularly if your child is a sensitive child, if they measure high on neuroticism or high on compassion, they are going to be having a very kind of challenging time with what has just happened. Also, if they're in those crucial stages where safety is an important measure, or their sense of belonging in the universe is kind of a crucial developmental stage they're going through, they're going to be struggling. So anything you can do to reinforce messages over and over again, instill a sense of routine, structure, safety. Routine and structure mediate safety in the best way. So having that continuity, having a process in place, having a parenting plan with your ex makes a big difference. It gets everybody settling into a bit of a rhythm. You trying to have as good a relationship as possible with the ex makes a big difference, because they see that and they model that. They can see, all right, my parents, maybe they don't love each other in that romantic sense anymore, but there's respect there. There is good communication there. They have found a way to be in a rhythm with each other. There's routine, there's structure. I know where I'm going to be Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. I know when the handover is happening. I know when my dad is going to call me. I know that I can text my mum. I know what the process is, and I'm an active participant in it. I have, therefore, some agency. I have ability to speak up for myself, and it's not just as if this trauma has been thrust on me and I have no say and nobody listens and nobody cares. Other things that are important is to really listen to them when they're upset, and not to tell them to be quiet or just to sort themselves out or to pipe down or to get over it. Because then we're really training them in these vital developmental stages that their needs don't matter, their feelings don't matter, and that can cause a lot of internal trauma. And particularly if your child measures high on neuroticism and the withdrawal aspect, they can totally withdraw and then try to get to safety through disconnection mechanisms like cutting themselves, taking drugs, and some of the other things that we've seen on many of the cases that we've worked on. So to avoid all that, it's starting right, how you tell them, and having a really good plan in place, putting the kids first, trying to put your differences aside with your ex so that the children are, front of mind, the most important people in this process. Focusing on them being able to experience their feelings, feel their feelings, giving them space to feel their feelings. Like, hey, I really get that you're upset right now. And it's okay for you to be upset. It's okay to not be okay. And, what do you want to do with this upset? Should we go and hit some pillows? Should we go outside and get a bag of ice and just beat it with a baseball bat? Would that make you feel better? Or should we go and have a cry together? Should we sit here and have some popcorn and watch a sad film together? What should we do to help you really express this emotion? By sitting with them and making sure that they feel that they're not alone in their experience, that mediates them getting traumatized by the event. A trauma response is often created not because we have a dysregulated feeling like sadness or despair or grief. It's when we're alone with those dark feelings. So by being with them in those dark feelings, not shaming them for their feelings, but actually encouraging them to feel them, teaching them how to feel them, making it okay for them to feel them, and talking about it together, you normalize it, you make it okay. They can actually still become secure attached later on in life when they have their personal relationships. Other things to keep in mind is to watch their behavior. Behavioral changes are indication that they're not managing the change well, and to lean in and talk to them about it. Don't be too formal. I see some parents just get really formal about this stuff. I need you to give me your phone passcode so that I can study what you're doing on your phone. This is not going to work. Your kids are going to kick off against that. Kids, when they developmental stages, they've got to develop their sense of independence, their sense of being a separate entity, then the respect, privacy, all these kind of key traits and key developments that have to happen don't happen when you're just trying to project manage them as if they're an entity that you need to control to make your own stress levels go down. It's not respecting them and their feelings and needs at the time. So by leaning in, checking in how they're doing, how are you doing? I'm a bit worried. I've noticed this change in behavior. I really want you to feel like you can talk to me about this stuff. And even if you don't want to talk right now, that's okay. But why don't we go do something together? Why don't we go for a bit of a walk, or why don't we go grab some ice cream, and maybe we can just sit together and you can know that you're not alone through this and I'm thinking of you. So by doing those kind of check-ins that are a bit like loose or light-hearted, by respecting their need for agency and control, by sharing that you're worried about them, that you're concerned, that you've noticed some change in behavior, and are they okay, and it's okay to not be okay. That way they feel our compassion and care, but without our controlling self to try and mitigate this risk that we're seeing in front of us. That then still allows them to develop that independence away from us. Other thing to kind of think about is, don't use your kids as a short-term emotion avoidance tactic. What I mean by that is, don't hide behind being overly fixated on their needs being met and pleasing and, spending lots and lots of time orbiting them. You need to get a life, and you need to have a life that is separate from your children and not cling to them as your life raft through this change that you're experiencing. You've got to get yourself together. You've got to get help for what you're going through. You've got to process what has happened so that you can help them process what has happened and not make them feel like they need to help you regulate your own emotions. That's not healthy, and unfortunately it's a pattern that we see too often with parents that are struggling with the shift and the change in divorce. What that means is that a lot of kids are growing up too quickly. They end up becoming the surrogate husband, or for their mothers that are not regulating well, or to be the surrogate kind of mother figure for their fathers who are lost and struggling and emotional. And we never want children to have those kinds of responsibilities thrust on them at an early age. They miss vital times in their childhood, and they become too serious and forget to play and enjoy their childhood and the innocence of that time. So these are just some ideas that we have on how to help your kids process what is going on with divorce. We also have approaches and techniques and templates that parents can use for how to communicate their kids and tell their kids about divorce, how to plan that, and how to develop really effective parenting plans and communication techniques with your ex so that you can consciously uncouple and put your kids first. So those are just some things I wanted to share, and if you want to find out more about that, do book a clarity call with myself or somebody on our team, and we can talk you through some of the programs that support people to be awesome parents as they go through this change. Take care.